Welcome to Thoughts Off the Stem. Thanks for joining the sesh with me, Justin Barone. I hope life's being good to you. If you're going through a little something, well, I hope this takes your mind off it for a little bit. If you're new to the show, hit follow or subscribe. That helps me out greatly, and hopefully you like the show so you want to keep coming back, so you want to know when it's going to happen, right? That's right. You can also leave me a comment or hit me up on Instagram or Twitter, or X, I guess. Instagram is Thoughts Off the Stem. X is at TOTS420, TOTS420. Leave me a DM, leave me a comment, let me know what you think. And let me know where you're listening from, because I like to know, where I'm infecting places. I also want to know what you're smoking on this week, if that's your thing. If it's not your thing, that's cool too. This is just supposed to be a fun little sesh for anybody to hang out with. That's right. So, in that vein, let's sesh it up. That's right. So this week I wanted to talk about, how everybody always tells you never to give up, never to quit. If you give up, you're a failure, you're a loser. Well, I don't know that that's totally true, I think that you should give up on some things. Sometimes it's good to quit. It's good to quit drinking. It's good to quit smoking, like cigarettes. It's good to maybe quit harassing that kid in your class. It's good to be nice to your neighbor, and give up on, being a jackass. I had to quit being an asshole because I realized on a flight to Cuba that I was being an asshole and I couldn't quit. I just kept doubling down and kept going, and it was, not very good. So I had to quit being an asshole. Not that I was an asshole all the time, but I had to reevaluate how I get angry at things and how I react. I had to give up on my preconceived notions of being, the guy that's like justice for all kind of thing. But yeah, I think that it is definitely not failure to give up. Sometimes giving up just means that you recognize that whatever you're doing is not working, so it's time to give up and move on. Putting your head down and just hammering through something until your life totally falls apart or you hate yourself is not, I think, what people mean when they say keep plugging. Like, if you have a good idea, a good concept, or there's a tough time, sure, it's good to put your head down and work through that. But if it's negatively affecting everything that you do in your life and it's becoming a burden to do that thing, it's probably time to quit. I'll give you an example. Okay, I worked at a composting company. I worked there for 8 years. When I got hired onto that company, I was told that the reason I was getting hired was because I had potential to move up in the company and sort of at some point run a facility. Okay, I apparently had those leadership qualities. So I started working for this company. I did everything that I could because it was working with heavy equipment, getting dirty, all the things I like to do at the time in my life. I didn't have a problem getting dirty, getting my hands dirty. I love driving heavy equipment because, what guy doesn't like driving big ass, heavy, loud front end loaders and tractors and trailers and equipment? That's just fun shit, I think. I think for the majority of men. And as I progressed, at first I had no experience, and then over the course of that 8 years, I became one of the best, if not the best, operator within at least the facility I was working in, if not company-wide, right? So I was given other job tasks, I was given other job tasks, and I was given things, work that would potentially help me, jump to the next level. So I started as a front-end loader. I maintained doing that for 8 years. At, I think, year 5, I became the health and safety rep. And then over the course of being the health and safety rep, I got brought on to do more things like adjust SOPs, put some influence. I was published in a health and safety SOP. And yes, that's actually being published. And I really knew my stuff. I was in charge of I was in charge of two things. I was in charge of obviously making sure that the staff did the right things and followed all the protocols, but I was also in charge of sort of liaison with the Ministry of Environment, which was obviously a good skill to have because now you're talking to government officials about the state of your facility and the state of the safety in the facility. So I did everything. They put me through some health and safety courses, some that they didn't. They gave me more training than I needed. I went through that and I passed all of it with like flying colors. I was reliable. I was the person that they could count on to come if there was like an emergency and they needed a loader. I basically did everything I possibly could to maintain that concept of being able to move forward and run, or at least help run, a facility. Well, around year 6, we got a new supervisor, and him and I obviously started butting heads because he had no loader experience and he didn't really understand the workflow of the business. And so it leaned on me a lot to teach him how to, show him how to drive a loader more effectively. It leaned on me to sort of help him help him influence the processes in which they should happen and how they should happen and things like that. Then it got to the point where under his direction, I found that as the senior operator and the senior employee in the facility, I was starting to get the sort of like grunt jobs, right? So in the day, you end up having to do maintenance checks on equipment. You have to clean equipment before you start using it for the day. You have to basically, maintain that everything's going to be in proper working order. Well, it's supposed to be, because it was a small staff, it's supposed to be that we took turns in alternating jobs. So like one day I'd be shoveling, the next day I'd be driving a loader. One day, then it would switch off. So that was sort of where we were at. But it got to the point where I found that for week after week, I was doing all the grunt work, or at least the majority of the time I was doing the grunt work. If I started talking to other employees, I was pulled off and given a different job, where other employees were allowed to sort of like hold hands and fucking prance around the facility. It was very frustrating. And it got to the point where, even though I was going through some personal issues, I was kind of praised for my handling of those personal issues and doing the things that to maintain my job and to maintain my my level of input in the job and excellence, I guess you could say. Well, it got to the point where like some promotions were starting to happen and I kept getting passed over, and I'm sitting there going like, well, what the fuck am I doing here then? Right? And in any meeting that I had, because I was hired by the director, so I was able to have personal conversations with him, or at least direct conversations with him, and then my supervisor. But I kept getting passed over for these promotions, and it started to feel like, well, what am I doing here? And I remember one of the conversations was very pivotal because we were talking about the fact that I was still maintaining a level that was sort of superior in function to the people around me. So I was still in that top, like, hey, if we open a new facility, we want you to do it. But my question became like, well, when is this going to happen? Because I've been told this for 8 years now. Sure, the first couple of years I kind of push off to the side because you're learning the function of the business. And in this environment, it takes you a long time to learn what exactly goes on, how it works, and how to best operate, right? So that's a 2-year learning period. But once years 3 and 4 hit, I started to find my groove, and I started to have, influence with people around me. So it started to creep into my head like, well, what am I doing here? Like, I'm trying to move ahead. I've been told I'm going to move ahead, but I'm not moving ahead. And then when I finally had the discussion with my with my director, he's like, yeah, no, that's still the plan. I'm like, well, when? Like, am I going to wait till I'm 70? Because I don't feel like I have time to wait to be, like, this is a very physical job. I'm already starting, even though I was in the best shape of my life, I was already starting to feel the physicality of it, especially going through a separation and trying to have energy for my kids when they were younger on the weekends and things like that. It was starting to deteriorate, which ultimately then started to make my mentality deteriorate towards the job, towards my coworkers. I started to lash out. I started to be very, upset and angry about some of the things that were going on in the facility. And I'm not saying that I'm right on everything here. I'm saying that this is what happens to somebody when the carrot's dangled in front of the horse and you're just expected to keep reaching for the carrot where nothing really materializes, right? So how long, as an individual, are you supposed to sit in that environment and just kind of hope that things work out eventually? Especially if you're not you don't have a bad review. You improve all the things that you're supposed to do. You take on all the courses and classes that they enroll you in with no problem. No fight, no fuss, no muss, no whatever. You're just doing it, right? So to me, it's sort of this instant turned into like a big back and forth of aggression, because I felt like I was watching my coworkers do things that I wasn't allowed to do. I was watching my coworkers get the cushier jobs throughout the day for whatever reason. I don't really know even to this day. I was dealing with a supervisor that seemed to not want to change or affect it and just wanted to keep it going in the manner that it was going, even though it was becoming very frustrating. And I know I'm not the only person there. And then I had a director that was sort of like nonchalant about some of it, and kept telling me the same things, but it never materialized. Till at a certain point, now you have to understand, I was going through this back and forth with my superiors for like 2 years. And yeah, I was getting a little more aggressive and I was getting a little more straightforward and like pushy about it, but I wanted more. I wanted better. I wanted to move up. Money to me is great, but it's not the only like telltale sign that you're doing what you could do. Like, I want to be able to influence and have input into like the bigger picture. I don't want to just focus on one streamline of task. I want to be able to actually progress, like I said, the bigger picture, the whole company. So that was my goal. My goal is to move up. And yes, that comes with more money and a better, better job duties, a little bit less physical. So those things were, appealing to me. And then I kept getting told, well, hey, look, it's going to get there, but you got to wait. Well, how long do I have to wait? How long is 8 years? Not long enough to put in the effort, stay at the top of your skill set and not get that ultimate bump, So I got a little aggressive. I started to get a little frustrated. I started to get a little aggravated and definitely a little bit more angry at the people around me, because I felt like they weren't putting in the effort that I was putting in, which is not good. It's not healthy. And then all of a sudden, all the stuff on the side, the personal stuff was starting to affect it. So overall, I was not very comfortable. I was not very happy. I wasn't having a very good time. And then on top of that, I keep getting told this. Till one day, I'm sitting at 7 a.m. in the break room, and I'm trying to make a coffee, and my supervisor walks in, and my supervisor goes, "Hey man, what are you pissed off at?" And now, again, this is like a Monday or a Tuesday morning, and again, I'm doing all the grunt work, the shoveling, the stuff that like we have to sort of switch off on so that one person doesn't feel like they're being overloaded with physical work, right? Because when I say it's physical work, it was a lot of I started working there at 230 pounds. By the time I was done working there, I was 180 pounds, dude. Okay, that's just from like, yes, I worked out on the side, but that's from the heat of the environment, the physical labor that was involved in the environment, stuff like that. So granted, there were good things that came out of it, but in this instance, he tells me, "Hey, why are you pissed off at everything?" And I tell him I'm not pissed off because I was just trying to push my feelings down, baby, like a real man. You know what I'm saying? I was just trying to keep my feelings in the spot that they should be and not and try to assume that I was the one that was being a little bit douchey in the situation. So I just basically said, "Look, I don't want to talk about it. I'll just, I'm trying to work through it." And then he kept pushing. He kept asking why. Till finally I said, "Look, you want to get into it? Here's the simple fact. Simple fact is that your leadership puts me in a position where I'm doing all the grunt work and I'm the senior operator, and you're giving my lesser skilled counterpart or teammate the ability to do the simple things, do the easier tasks in the day." So that's just the way, like, that was what was pissing me off, because every time I felt like I was getting handed these like insurmountable tasks or these tougher on you tasks, it felt like the other people around me were getting these easy, simple kid tasks that, like, what are you doing? Like, I'll give you an example. So you have to move phases of compost. So from one phase to the other, you're driving a loader for hours on end, moving compost from one space to another space. I could do that in 4 hours, okay? That's a really, really good time, because you're moving like 600 or 700 tons. my counterpart, my teammate, the person that you reflect who's doing better, it took him 9 hours, an entire shift to move one thing. It took me less than half a shift to move the same thing. So like, why is this guy getting prioritized on that? And you could say, oh, it's to build his skill set. The problem is, we were only hired a year apart. So if he wasn't getting any better at that point, he wasn't getting any better. Okay? So anyway, it blew up. And my supervisor goes, well, you can't be mad at work every day. You can't be pissed off, and it's not really good for you. This is where the quitting is okay, it's not failure, is the concept. Because as he was saying that to me, this like sense of calm, I was frustrated. Anxiety was like spiking. I was losing it. I felt like there was like electricity coming out my fingertips. I was so riled up. When he said that, all of a sudden, all of that washed away. And there was like this sense of calm and clarity that just was like, you're right. My brain went, dude, he's right. You should not be this pissed off at work all the time. And I just went out loud. I couldn't stop myself. It just happened. It went from brain to mouth. And it went, you're right. I shouldn't be pissed off like this. And it's not right that I come to work every day and this is the thing that I'm involved in. It's not healthy. It's not good. My stress, like I'm going to have a fucking heart attack, And I told him, I flat out said, I said, you're right. I shouldn't be mad at this. I quit. And I went to the shower, and it was 7 a.m. I just my shift was only 2 hours old, and I get in the shower because you have to clean up and leave before you go because it's compost and it's stinky. And I did that. I cleaned up, and as I'm cleaning up, he walks through the shower. He's like, dude, are you really leaving? I said, yep. And I left. When I was younger, did stupid things, and I'd left, you quit a job because you're pissed off at your boss or whatever. And every time I left, I'd be like, fuck, I shouldn't have done that. This time, I was not even kind of I was not even kind of upset about quitting this job. I didn't look back once. I never felt bad about it because I had been told one thing and the actions weren't adding up. And then I kept fighting with the people around me just to be able to function at doing my job and doing my job the way I'm supposed to. I was literally arguing over every aspect of it because anytime I was trying to do something, I'd get pulled away from it for somebody else to do something. So it didn't feel right. It didn't feel equal. It didn't feel like very good leadership. And it felt like I was just being given lip service to sort of hang on. And how long are you going to listen to that? So in that instance, it's okay to quit. It's okay to give up. There are certain lines of thinking that you have to give up on. There are certain attempts in life that you have to give up on. Like you can't just keep beating your head against a wall and hoping that it doesn't flatten out the top of your head. You have to be able to understand that once you get to a specific level and once you get to a point where things don't seem to be moving forward, they seem to be becoming stagnant, that it's time to stop doing that thing. That wasn't lost on me. So I think that with this heavy ass hustle culture that keeps telling you to just, bear with it and keep going, I think it's kind of wrong. I think that you need that hustle and you need that push and you need that head down forward moving attitude when it's something that's fruitful for you. Because a lot of people don't remember or realize or keep in the back of their mind that you're not just working for a company, but that company has to also work for you. That situation has to work for you. Whatever it is that you're doing, you're running a podcast, you're, doing, trying to become a comedian, an entertainer, you're trying to build a business, whatever it is, that thing has to serve you as much as you serve it. It's going to take you a lot of work. It's going to take you a lot of time. You're going to have to sacrifice a lot to get that. But in the end, your sacrifice has to be rewarded. And if you're not getting the reward that was the initial goal, there's a certain point where you have to look back and reflect on that and be like, is this working for me anymore? And then if it's not working for you anymore, you should be okay with saying, you know what, I'm walking away. And I don't think you should be penalized for that. Some people are going to be pissed off at you, but they're going to be pissed off at you because of their involvement in it and what they're trying to get out of it. So they're really looking at it only from their perspective. They're not necessarily looking at it from your perspective and what your expectation was, even though they seeded your expectation. So yeah, it's not failure if you walk away. I'm here to tell you that it's okay. It's okay to walk away. It's okay to give up on certain things. Like if you were given $10 million to box Mike Tyson, and then Mike Tyson started beating the shit out of you, maybe fall down. Fall down. Get your 10 million, but fall down. Okay? Because you need to give up on that. Because you're not going to kick Mike Tyson's ass. You know? That's what I'm saying. You want to play Michael Jordan, and Jordan's just, it's time to walk away. Jordan's going to kill you in basketball. Doesn't matter if he hasn't touched the ball in years. He's still going to destroy you because he's Michael Jordan. You know? So yeah, this culture of like pushing through and never giving up is great to a certain extent. But I think that there's like a little slot that people need to remember and keep in mind when they get involved in something that they really want to succeed at. You have to at some point measure the success of it, measure the progress, and measure whether or not it's actually, becoming or staying beneficial for you. Granted, I do have to say this. I would never recommend leaving a job without having another job. So I don't want you to think that like that's what I think. You should just fuck it, leave and take off. Don't do that. Do your best to try and find another job. However, having said that, if you're an intelligent person, which I think that like honestly, I think a good majority of the people that are in these situations are, you have skills, you have talent, you can make it. It's okay. So if you find that you're in a position where you're constantly aggravated, you're not getting ahead, you feel like you're being told one thing and the actions don't add up. If you feel like you're the horse trying to catch the carrot, maybe, and it's been like that for like an extended long period of time. I'm not saying this over the course of like a month or even a couple years. I'm saying if you've put like 8 to 10 years into something and it's not fruitful, what are you doing? Right? Why are you doing it? You're just making life difficult for you. Life should be a balance of enjoyment and hustle. Not just hustle, 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 hustle. Unless that's your enjoyment. If that's what you like, then do that. But I'm saying that don't quit a job just to get out of that scenario. Try to do your best to find another job that, services whatever financial needs you have, that job was, fulfilling, obviously. But if you're at the point where you're like me, where I was lashing out, I was telling people off, man. I was getting to the point where I was getting very vocal about things and it was bad for me. I was either going to walk away or eventually I was going to get fired for running my mouth too much. Like that's how I felt things were going to happen. So walking away was the best move, even though I had nothing to go to. It was not the best. And also, I kind of lucked out in the fact that COVID was happening. So, and I'd worked there for 8 years. So I was able to run off some savings for a bit. And I was also able to utilize EI at a certain point. So that's all I'm saying is that you gotta measure what you're doing, and it's okay to quit. It's okay to walk away from it if it's not fulfilling the goals and the aspirations that you had set out for it. And if there's a change that makes that happen, you got to evaluate this, periodically throughout your work life and throughout whatever it is that you're doing, not just all of a sudden let it build up until you explode like a little atom bomb. But yeah, that's my take this week. Those are my thoughts off the stem. It's okay to quit. It's not failure. Sometimes it's the better move. Sometimes it's a smarter move. So, really think about your position and think about what you want before you do something like that. But also understand that, it's okay to do that. It's not a failure. It's not a failure. That's all I'm saying. So yeah, again, those are my thoughts off the stem for this week. Thank you for joining me, Justin Barone, on Thoughts Off the Stem. I hope you come back next week. If you're new to the show, thank you for following this long. Since you're here, hit the follow button or the subscribe button. Leave me a comment. Tell me what you think of this show. Tell me what you think. Like, is quitting failure? Is it or is it okay to quit? What do you think? What do you think of the topic? Yeah, and again, tell me where you're listening from. Did I say that? Tell me where you're listening from and tell me what you're smoking on this week or what you smoked during the sesh. Maybe it'll give me an idea for something to puff on this sesh. I smoked something that I don't know what it is. That's why I didn't bring it up. But yeah, until next time, keep your lids low, baby. Oh.